going on, everybody? Welcome back. I know that it has been a little bit of a minute, but I'm very excited to be making another video for you today. We're going to be talking about everything AFC football. I got breakdowns for every team over the last couple weeks and realistic expectations for who these teams are. This is kind of like a checkpoint benchmark in the season as we get underway. But before I jump into that, I have a very special guest, my cat Mabel. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see her snuggling up behind me. Normally, I don't let her down here while I'm filming because she likes to attack the lights that I have. All the wires and cords, she is very into causing a problem when it comes to messing with the equipment. But, and just as I say that, she's starting to move. She's been good so far, but we'll see how it goes. I think she's seeing something on my monitor. She gets very intrigued by the small things that she sees. Yep, she's seeing the recording on my monitor, how it keeps clicking and moving, and she's over there now, so we'll see how this goes. She just almost fell my keyboard off my desk. Okay, eventful start to the episode. Anyways, let's get talking about a couple things of football. Before we jump into talking about the AFC, there were some things I wanted to highlight. First of all, God is doing incredible things in sports. This past week, we heard about Hollywood Brown, Travis Hunter, and Terrion Arnold. They all got baptized, and it's just so cool to get to see that players actively expressing their faith in Jesus now. And I want to say we should celebrate any fruit that we see from anybody, no matter what their past is. Like even for a guy like Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, whatever, Travis Hunter, even we see some of the background and the way that they were or the way that they acted, and we want to almost hold that against them and disqualify them from actually really wanting to follow Jesus. How about we encourage them and support them and be excited that they're showing evidence of faith? Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I really like what Hollywood Brown said. He said, I am done living for myself. I'm going to live for Jesus and serve others. I think that's cool. That sounds like the gospel if you ask me. So, yeah, that's really cool. Another quick thing I wanted to highlight, just wanted to give a shout out to the wonderful Pastor Michelle Mitchum. She was very generous enough to really help me upgrade a lot of what I'm doing. She was the one that bought this mic stand for me. She bought a tripod for my phone to be set up so I can film this. In the past, I was using a chair and a bunch of puzzles and board games to be a tripod, so it's very nice to have a tripod I can just slot my phone in. Then she also bought a key light off to my left, so hopefully that'll eliminate any kind of shadows. So trying to upgrade the podcast, trying to make it better. And again, I know I've talked about having guests on the podcast and all that kind of stuff. I really do want to do that. Just takes a lot of time to figure some of that stuff out. So I'm kind of thinking maybe in the off season, once the NFL's over, I can look at how I can have guests on the podcast to make it a little bit easier, as well as doing some fun stuff like change of locations for some of the podcasts. I really would love to do some on my back deck. I just feel like that would be fun. Back to sports, though. If you can't tell what my jersey is, this is a Columbus Blue Jackets jersey, my favorite hockey team, and I'm going to be very bold about this. The best sporting event you can go to is a hockey game. It is better than soccer. It is way better than a football game, and I'm saying I love watching football on my TV. Going to football games is not the same as going to something like a hockey game. The energy in a hockey arena is unbelievable. So if you have not gone to a hockey game, you got to put it on your bucket list to make it happen. Hockey is such a great sport. I love watching it on TV too. I know a lot of people say that they have a hard time following the puck. Believe me, you watch enough hockey, you'll be able to figure out where the puck is and keep up with it pretty well. But hockey is just electric. The Blue Jackets, they've started off the season 1-2. I can live with 2 of the losses that we've had. The one game we won was against the Minnesota Wild. We had 7 goals. It was just awesome. We just lost the other night on Monday night. I'm trying to remember exactly who we played. But it was one of those where we had so many great scoring chances. Puck just didn't go in the net. That was kind of the same thing with our first loss of the season. So hockey's great. Check it out. If you've never watched hockey, give it a try. I'm telling you, if you really get into it, you're not going to be disappointed. And it's also nice just the way that sports even are, because if one of your favorite teams is stinking, chances are if you're rooting for other teams, one of your teams is going to be doing good. This year, the Alabama Crimson Tide is playing well, where they sucked last year. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. This year, the Eagles haven't been too great. The Blue Jackets haven't started off incredible. Alabama's been awesome. So it's been nice. But when all 3 of my teams start losing, then check on me, okay? I'm just kidding. It's just sports. It doesn't really matter. Sports matter to fans and players and a lot of America. but in the grand scheme of things, they don't really matter all that much. It's just fun to talk about, fun to evangelize with. So, anyways, yeah, the AFC. What I want to do today is I was going to do a recap of the entire NFL, the AFC and the NFC. It is a lot. I've actually just for the last about 2.5 hours sat down to write my notes just for this video. Like I said, I go in depth. I want you guys to hear really well done sports content, not lazy garbage, but stuff that like you actually feel like you can talk about sports and know what's really going on. So I'm gonna do a breakdown of every team. I'm highlighting the passing game, some of their wins that have been important, some of the losses that have been bad, the rushing game, the receiving game, the defense, and realistic outlooks for what the teams could be. So, yeah, I hope you guys really enjoy this. And with that being said, let's kick it off with the AFC West. So, in first place in the AFC West right now, we got the Chargers. This past week, they stole a win over the Dolphins, and they now sit in 4-2, and they're first in the AFC West. This team started off red hot. They beat the Chiefs in Brazil, and they looked like they were going to be a problem. And then the next week, I can't remember who exactly they played, but I think everyone was kind of in agreement that the Chargers really could be the best team in the AFC. I mean, they looked like they were going to be unstoppable. They have good coaching, great quarterback in Justin Herbert. Quentin Johnston wasn't dropping the ball. He was actually catching touchdowns. And then they were deep at receiver with Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen being back. The running game, they had Najee Harris, Omarion Hampton. But some of the big stories for them have been some injuries like Rashawn Slater. I mean, he got injured in, I can't remember if it was a preseason game or if it was practice, and he's out for the year. And then Najee Harris tears his Achilles, so they don't have a real two running back tandem. But then the Chargers started to really struggle. They dropped a couple games, which I think were very surprising to a lot of people. Especially against the Giants, which that was a bit of a wild game. I can't imagine losing to the Giants. You know, that's a pretty crazy concept if you ask me. But anyways, they lost to the Giants, and I'm not over it still. I'm sorry. They lost to the Giants and the injured Commanders, which that was definitely kind of surprising. But yeah, Justin Herbert, I feel like he's had a good season, not an incredible season. Like he's been producing well. And had some great throws, but I think if you're talking about Justin Herbert and the way that he was playing the first 2 weeks, if he would have retained that form, oh my gosh, I mean, he would be the easy front runner for MVP, but he's kind of slowed down a little bit, but still a great quarterback, still very talented, still very dangerous. As far as the rushing game, as I said, you know, they lose Najee Harris to an Achilles tear. And again, it's one of those where you just know it right when it happens. You just see the back foot go back, the foot goes out, and you just know. And it's terrible, man. It really is. But Omarion Hampton has been really, really good. He's been quietly, like, not really talked about a whole lot, but he's averaging almost 5 yards a carry and has 2 touchdowns. They're definitely going to be giving him the ball more again with the injury to Najee Harris that happened, I think, 2 or 3 games ago. I think he'll have a very productive rookie year. I think he could definitely break 1,000 yards, maybe even start getting in the conversation of being Offensive Player of the Year. I think Emeka Egbuka has definitely ruled the Offensive Player of the Year conversation. So we'll kind of see how that develops for Omarion Hampton, but looks really, really promising. The Chargers have also been dealing with an injury to Joe Alt, so it's definitely exciting to think about with this offensive line what this team could be in terms of a passing game and a running game. I mean, it's such a fully put together team when you look at the Chargers, and then you have Jim Harbaugh coaching, and I feel like you just kind of look at it on paper and you're like, how is this team not in like legitimate Super Bowl contention every single year? I mean, they're so good. So even talking about the receiving, right? Like Quentin Johnston seems to really have rid himself of his demons of dropping the ball. I mean, he's been their big play guy. They have a really good breakdown. I really like the Chargers locker room, wide receiver room. You have Ladd McConkey, who is that route runner, Adam Thielen kind of type, where like you can count on getting 6 or 7 yards, 8 yards, even a first down every time you throw the ball to him. He's going to be great in the red zone, getting open for touchdowns. Kind of reminds me of Hunter Renfrow, except maybe a little bit more talented. And then with Quentin Johnston, you've just got this big play wide receiver guy who can really just take the top off the defense and have those big plays that you're looking for. And then Keenan Allen's just old reliable. You know, you know that you can throw the ball to him. He's got a good chance of catching it just because of how good his hands are and just how reliable he's been. So really like this Chargers receiving room. I had some stats that I wanted to talk about with them. Quinn Johnston really could develop into a wide receiver one. He's got 26 catches, 377 yards, and 4 touchdowns, and he's averaging high when it comes to yards per catch. Yeah, I think that they've been good. Their defense has been fine. I did want to highlight Tui Piloto has 5 sacks on the year, which has definitely been exciting. But hopefully this defense can come along even more, especially when they get Khalil Mack back from injury, and just see how they progress. So my main notes for them to continue having a successful season is I think their main fear is the Chiefs right now. We're going to talk about the Chiefs next. And charging. Just don't let the demons come back. Don't let the struggles come back. Don't let the failure come back where like you choke away things that you should win. Chargers have a chance. They got a chance to win the AFC West and a chance to make some noise in the playoffs. So we'll see how they do. So as I said, we're going to talk about the Chiefs now. They had a huge win Monday night over the Lions. Obviously, a lot of people were talking about the brawl between Smith-Schuster and Brian Branch. Yeah, I think it'd probably be wise if I don't say anything about it. I'll leave it there. The Chiefs are currently 3-3, and I think they're tied for third in the AFC West. They may be just third in the AFC West, though. I think they might be tied with the Broncos. The Broncos might have a slight lead on them, though. I think the Broncos do have a lead on them. But anyway, so the Chiefs, they get a huge win Monday night over the Lions. And yeah, the thing with the Chiefs is that they had a lot of frustrating losses. You know, they lost to the Jags on that crazy Trevor Lawrence play last week where he literally falls down and then still manages to run the ball in. Chris Jones would have put some effort in that, probably wouldn't have happened. They lose to the Chargers week 1 in Brazil. Those kind of international games I feel like are really dodgy. I mean, even with the Eagles and Packers game, that was so sloppy last year in Brazil. And then obviously the Eagles beat the Chiefs as well, and that was a very, very scrappy game, a game that the Chiefs definitely could have and probably should have won, and they just didn't. So yeah, they've definitely had some tough losses, sitting 3-3, but they look like they are back. I mean, Pat has been incredible. He's top 5 in yards, touchdowns, and I think he's 4th in QBR. He's looked really confident in their last 2 games, and the Chiefs are looking more and more like their old selves. Andy Reid's hitting his stride, and that's the other thing too, right? Like, I was even listening to a podcast, and I think one of the guys was talking about, like, up to week 6, that's kind of the point where you really start figuring out who your team is. You know, you're getting rid of the rust. You're figuring out the new scheme fits for the guys that you've added in. For coaches, it's kind of getting back into the rhythm of things, and then you start progressing. So this Chiefs team is looking like they could really go on a tear here. So yeah, the Chiefs are not dead. They're not dead. As much as people would like to say they are not. Moving on to the rushing game, that's been the Chiefs' biggest weakness, is that Pat Mahomes is also their leading rusher too. Pacheco just hasn't really gotten going. Kareem Hunt is not really running back one kind of guy, so I'm curious how heavily they're going to keep leaning on it. I think for how deep their wide receiver room is, you know, again, you've got Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Smith-Schuster, Travis Kelce, even guys that are not as talked about. I'm trying to remember. I know he's 83 for the Chiefs. He's a white dude. He produces pretty darn well. I mean, they've got a really deep wide receiver room and tight end room, and if Pat Mahomes is on fire, how much do you really need to run the ball? I think that's probably what the Chiefs might be leaning into right now, but I expect that Andy Reid will start to lean on the passing game as defenses try to adjust to, or I'm sorry, Andy Reid will lean on the running game the more that the Chiefs opponents try to counter to their passing game. So we'll see how they do with that. Yeah, Kelce has been the leading receiver, but again, like, this is an example of it being receiver by committee. So keep in mind, Pat is top 5 in passing yards. Kelsey's only averaging 53 yards per game, and he's leading in that category for the Chiefs. So they've been doing a really great job spreading the ball around. And they have 6 different people who have caught a touchdown on the year, which is pretty cool as well. The Chiefs defense did a great job holding back the Lions in that game this past week. And if they keep pace the way that they're doing right now, if they keep playing the way they've played the last couple weeks, they're definitely going to be in contention to get in the playoffs and fight for a Super Bowl. And this is a team with experience, you know, like a lot of people have said, this is what happened with Brady and the Pats. You know, they would lose in the Super Bowl, and then they would come back the next year and they'd win it. So we'll see if the Chiefs do that. Next, we got the Broncos. They got an ugly win over the Jets, but a win is a win. out in England. It was a real field goal fest. I think there was one touchdown scored that game, which was a wide open running back wheel route that Bo Nix threw close to the end of the first half. They're 4-2, and I believe I had here in my notes, I don't know if they're tied for second or third in the AFC West with the Chiefs or if they're actually ahead, but they've made every game close in the good and the bad. Like going through some of their scores, let me pull them up while I talk about them, but even obviously the first thing that comes to my mind is the Eagles game, right? Like they couldn't do much of anything against the Eagles until that second half, and then they score 18 straight, and they win in a super close game where, again, the Eagles really could have won that on a last-second play, right? Go to their schedule. So they beat Tennessee 20-12, and even that game was it was pretty competitive at the beginning. And then they lost a 1-point game to Indiana that they really could have won, but there was that whole leverage penalty, which gave the Colts another re-kick, and then the Colts kicked the game winner. They lose by 3 points to the Chargers. Then they whooped the Bengals 28-3, beat the Eagles 21-17, and then barely beat the 0-6 Jets 13-11. So it's been an interesting season for the Broncos. I think not a whole lot of Broncos fans have probably been very comfortable in any of the games that they've played. But again, wins are wins. They're 4-2. They're in pace to fight for the division, so they're doing enough. One of the notes I had on Bo Nix is he hasn't had as good as a season, I think, that a lot of people thought he would have. He had a really great stretch at the end of his rookie year last year, and I feel like Bo almost kind of still seems like a rookie in some ways, whether it's the decision-makings or anything like that. Like, the overthrows have been a problem for him, too. He misses a good amount of throws, actually, and it seems to all be on the big plays, too, which is really frustrating. I would have no idea how it feels for my quarterback to miss big deep shot throws. I mean, I couldn't imagine going through that. But the Broncos have dealt with some of that this year. But yeah, so we'll see how he continues to progress. I think that's one of the things is Sean Payton is pretty darn good at helping a quarterback cover up any of their weaknesses and play to their strengths. So hopefully Bo can keep rolling on as he's been. But yeah, one of the big things for the Broncos has been the acquisition of J.K. Dobbins. I mean, Dobbins was incredible when he was in college at Ohio State. Goes to the Ravens, deals with some injuries, and then I think he was on the Chargers last year and had more injuries, and then he's come to the Broncos, and he's just been awesome. Like, he's just been really, really great. He's averaging 5 yards a carry and has 4 touchdowns on the year. Just looked really, really strong. As far as the receiving game goes for the Broncos, Courtland Sutton's been a solid wide receiver 1. But outside of that, I really do worry about the Broncos being able to spread out the ball. They have Evan Ingram, who is almost like a tight end wide receiver hybrid, who has been solid in the past, but not crazy productive the way that you see a franchise tight end like Kelsey or Brock Bowers or Antonio Gates. It's not really fair to compare him to Antonio Gates, but just like an idea, you know what I mean? Outside of that, though, like Troy Franklin, he's had some bad fumbles, hasn't been super productive. They let Lil Jordan Humphrey walk last year, or they traded him, I can't remember. He's not on the team this year, and I mean, he had a ridiculous game for the Giants, and I think he's like their wide receiver 3. So the Broncos, I do feel like they're lacking depth at the receiver position, but again, they're winning games. The defense has been solid. Nick Bonito is definitely the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year in my mind. He has 8 sacks on the year. He's been so disruptive. He had a breakout year last year, and it still felt like a lot of people weren't really giving him his flowers as one of the best edges in the league, but he has put the league on notice this year, if you're asking me. I am still waiting for Pat Surtain to start getting some picks. He doesn't have a pick on the year. Obviously, he's a lockdown corner, but you do expect that he'll start getting some interceptions soon, especially as the pass rush. If the pass rush for the Broncos can continue to pick up, those interceptions come in. It's how it typically works. If your quarterback is getting rushed, he's going to make bad throws, and then defense is going to pick off the ball. One of the things with the Broncos as well has been the signings of Talia Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw. Kind of waiting on them to produce. I know Greenlaw's been dealing with some injuries. Hufanga's been making some plays, but you're hoping that they can really scheme them to unlock what it is, why they signed them. You know what I mean? I think Greenlaw is an incredible inside linebacker. I watching him when he was in San Francisco playing opposite of Fred Warner, you look at a guy like Greenlaw and you're like, dude, if this guy is lined up opposite of any other linebacker except for Zach Bond, he is the number one inside linebacker on that team. I mean, he was so quick, so aggressive, played a lot like Fred Warner in my opinion. So I think that the Broncos will have a stud in him once he gets healthy and is ready to go and integrated into the system. That's another thing too. We don't give players a lot of grace to integrate into systems. Same things with coaching. Which I really do want to talk about Kevin Patullo next video. I'm planning this week. Hopefully I'll get this AFC video out. I'm going to post this Wednesday, so you'll be seeing this today as I'm recording it. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to get the NFC video out, and then I want to do a video talking about the Eagles before Sunday, just discussing what needs to change, but just a quick kind of brief interview to brief look at what I'm going to be talking about with the Eagles. Let's have some grace for Kevin Patullo. I know it hasn't been great. I know it's been predictable, but think about your first month at any job you've had. It probably was a little more difficult than you thought it might be. There was a lot of learning you had to do. So let's give him some time. Let's give him some time. That's my take. I know a lot of Eagles fans are going to be like, no, we need to chop his head off. Get him out of Philly. I ate his guts. But I'm going to lean more on, like, let's show the man some grace and not call for other men's jobs. I feel like it's kind of evil if you ask me, but that's just me. Okay. Moving on to the Raiders. Oh, yeah, with the Broncos, I do believe that they have a shot to win the AFC West, but just got to put some more of those pieces together, and they're going to be a problem. The Raiders. The Raiders did indeed beat the Titans, and they are 2-4. They're last in the AFC West. And really what I had for them is that the wheels fell off really early in the year. Geno looked really darn good the first game that they played in. I mean, I remember talking about it on the podcast. It was like the mechanics just looked pure. He looked like he was poised. It looked like Pete Carroll had brought some much-needed life to this team. You got a guy like Max Crosby on your roster. That's always going to be a weapon for sure. And, they just have kind of fallen off, it seems, which is sad to say, but I think one of the big things is Ashton Jeanty has had a decent start to the season, but one of the notes that I had for Ashton is he's played well, but he's one of those guys where I look at Ashton Jeanty and I'm like, you've got to surround him with more talent to make him more dynamic. You think about the year that Saquon had last year compared to this year. Look at the way that the ball was going out to Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and even the design runs for Jalen Hurts. It opened up Saquon to run around like wild. And then he had opportunities to also get involved in the passing game. I think about a guy like Bijan Robinson. If the ball is moving from Michael Penix to Drake London and to Kyle Pitts it's going to open it up for Bijan to be able to run. And also, if you didn't see, I believe last game, Bijan averaged 9.1 yards per carry. That was an example of that. I said in week 1 that the Falcons have a chance to be one of the best offenses in the NFC, and then everyone wanted to laugh at me when the Falcons went 0-30 against the Panthers. But hey, give it some time, and I might be right. So the Raiders, they have gotten absolutely slaughtered. They won week 1 against the Patriots, which was, a pretty good win. Lose to the Chargers 20-9, get whooped by the Commanders 41-24, lose to the Bears 25-24 in a close game, get stomped by the Colts 40-6, and then they get a win against the Titans. So for the Raiders, Geno has really been mind-boggling with some of the decisions he's made. He has 7 touchdowns to 10 picks. And again, some of the reads on these picks, you're looking at him like, what did you see? You had a linebacker in front of the receiver and a corner right on his back, and you still threw it at him. I mean, it just really does kind of blow your mind at some of the decisions he's making. I appreciate the confidence, but it's not working out in his favor a whole lot of the time. So, yeah, Ashton Jeanty, though, I think he will only grow more dynamic. But this team has a lot of offensive needs. They do have a great tight end. I don't think Geno's going to be the long-term answer at quarterback. In the wide receiver room, they have Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker, who Trey Tucker has been a fun story. He has 356 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's already 200 away from his career high in his 3rd year in the league. Maybe he can develop into being a really great deep threat wide receiver. Who knows? But once this team can start getting going with a better passing game, Ashton Jeanty is going to be incredible. As far as the receivers, again, Brock Bowers has been injured, which is tough. But on the defensive side, Devin White's had a great career resurgence. If you don't remember, he signed with the Eagles last year. We cut him. He went to the Texans, didn't do a whole lot. And now he's on this Raiders team, and he's been really well utilized. He's third in the league in tackles. He's got a sack, and he's got a pick, which I'm happy for him. I think Devin White was incredible coming out of LSU his first couple years at Tampa. I mean, he just was a physical freak of nature. Really thought he would be the best inside linebacker in the league for years to come, and then just kind of fell. Sometimes you don't really know how to explain it, but sometimes it just happens. Max Crosby has been a problem as per usual. He has 4 sacks on the year. He has a pick, and he is just, dude, he's such a fun guy to watch, man. I mean, he is just after it every single down. Had that crazy play, I think, against the Bears where he jumped up, swatted the ball in the air, picks it off. Just an absolute animal of a defensive weapon. So love Max Crosby. Wish the Eagles could have got him, man. Oh, my gosh. I remember that was a big talking point before he signed the contract was trade for him. I would have given up 2 first-round picks for Max Crosby personally. But he signed with the Raiders, and that is he has to live with that decision. That's all I'm going to say. The main thing with the Raiders is they have to force turnovers and protect the ball if they want any shot. They are turning over the ball way too highly and not forcing enough turnovers to really be impactful in the AFC West standings. Now, moving on to the AFC North. First off, we'll start with Cleveland. They lose to the Steelers. They are 1-5. They're bottom of the division, and their offense has been terrible. They have their highest scoring game was 17 points. They did that twice. They lost both of those games. Their one win was against the Packers, which was a incredible carry by the defense that allowed the offense to get 13 points to win a football game. They traded away Flacco, who threw 2 touchdowns to 6 picks, and Gabriel really hasn't been that great. Like, he's averaged 107 yards a carry in 2 games, but again, he was playing a Brian Flores-led Vikings defense and then had to play the Steelers, who are a very veteran, talented group. So I don't think it's fully fair to say, oh, well, Dylan Gabriel sucks. Start Shedeur Sanders. Obviously, that's going to be loud in Cleveland at all times because Shedeur is such a big name. But the offense just has not gotten going. Quinshon Judkins has been great running the ball. He's looked really, really good. Maybe the best rookie running back in this class. That's arguable. I mean, again, you have Genty and Hampton, but he's really been producing. Looks talented. Maybe he can really shock the league and do that. But the offensive line for Cleveland has been so bad for 3 or 4 years that it's really not a huge surprise that the passing game is struggling. The big thing has been the receivers, though. Jerry Jeudy came off of a career year last year again. He was a first-round pick to Denver. I thought he was going to be absolute money for the Broncos. I thought he was going to be incredible. Just never found a good role there. Goes to Cleveland, has a career year, and has followed it up with 200 yards and not a single touchdown on 20 catches. Has had some bad drops, and it's sad for me because, again, this guy in college was just so good, but he just has not been able to put it together this year in Cleveland. Other notes for the offense, I said check back in 2 years, LOL. I think if this team can invest some draft picks in, that's the whole thing is like, where do you spend the draft picks? They need offensive line help. They need wide receiver help. They could arguably need quarterback help. We still don't know what they really have at a quarterback with Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur. So, oh man, it's rough. It's rough for Cleveland. However, the defense is pretty good. Grant Delpit's still producing. They just traded for a corner from Jacksonville. They did a weird corner-for-corner swap, which doesn't normally happen. I think they traded Greg Newsome for one of the Jags cornerbacks, and he played really well on Sunday. Myles Garrett has 4 sacks, and he's a beast. And then they also have a rookie linebacker, Carson Schlesinger, who has looked really, really good. So defense is okay for Cleveland, but people want Kevin Stefanski to be drugged through the streets of Cleveland and for the team to be blown up at this point. So the offense is just struggling, but hopefully they can figure it out. My little kitty's sleeping. That makes me happy. The Bengals. I'm going to have to really try and bite my tongue. What I want to say is this. I hate the Bengals as an organization. I hate the decisions they make. I hate the way they do business. I hate the way they build their team. I don't hate the players on the Bengals. I don't hate the fans of the Bengals. I don't hate the city of Cincinnati. I hate the way that this organization is run, and it genuinely makes me upset sometimes. Joe Burrow goes down, and they have been absolutely awful. They've been so bad. Their entire team has been built around this quarterback that they don't care to invest to protect with their offensive line. They shelled out so much money to these wide receivers who deserve. They deserve big contracts. T. Higgins is a pretty darn good wide receiver. Could arguably be a wide receiver one on a lot of other teams. Jamar Chase deserves to be the highest paid wide receiver in the league. I still think that you can say he's the best wide receiver in the league. And Joe Burrow is an incredible quarterback. And then they don't do anything to protect him. They don't do anything to protect him. They don't do anything to build a defense that can stop any other offense, so that way their offense can just, get a lead and run out the clock because their defense can't keep up. They bully Trey Hendrickson into a deal that was barely even better than what he was he was hoping for a way better deal. They kind of just bullied him into taking an okay deal so he could finally be on the field with his team, because I think Trey Hendrickson is a good guy and just wants to play football and make some money on this third contract that he was after. And the Bengals, they're so selfish. They're so stingy. And now Joe Burrow is on the same career arc for Andrew Luck. He really is. When he's in there, they have one of the best offenses in the AFC, possibly in the NFL. They make it to a Super Bowl. They make it to the AFC Championship. But outside of that, Joe Burrow is getting absolutely cracked every single game, has already taken more sacks and more quarterback hits than Andrew Luck did at this point in his career. I don't think anyone should be surprised if the same thing happens. If he retires, the city of Cincinnati should not be mad at Joe Burrow. They should be mad at the ownership. That was what wasn't fair to Andrew Luck, is that people were mad at him rather than being mad at the ownership for not doing their job. I've heard it said about, we see cases of Sam Darnold having a career resurgence, Daniel Jones having a career resurgence, and I can't remember who said it, but I heard someone say, it is almost always that organizations fail quarterbacks before quarterbacks fail organizations. I think that there's a lot of truth to that, and I think that's the case of Joe Burrow right now. And they didn't trade for Jameis Winston. They traded for Joe Flacco when they could have had Jameis Winston. We could have had a quality quarterback starting that would have led this team. If Jameis Winston would have started this past week, they would have been 3-3. They would have ended the year 14-3, first in the AFC, and they would have won the Super Bowl. The Bengals could have had that, and they chose not to. Just another example of how this team doesn't know anything about football, and I don't really want to talk about them anymore. Their run game sucks because their offensive line sucks. Their wide receivers can't do their job because the offensive line can't block for the quarterback to be able to do his job, which is throw the ball, so that way the wide receivers can catch the ball and score touchdowns and win the game. You get what I'm saying? It's not rocket science. The defense is terrible outside of Trey Hendrickson. This team makes me mad. That's all I have to say. I don't want to talk about the Bengals anymore. The Ravens also make me mad. I don't get why this team is bad. I don't get it. Like, Lamar Jackson is in, and this team is so dynamic and incredible. He's had a good season. Lamar has been good. And then Cooper Rush comes in and this team can't do literally anything. Derrick Henry really hasn't played bad. He's just had the worst fumbles ever at the worst possible times. Zay Flowers is a productive wide receiver. DeAndre Hopkins is a great big play guy. Mark Andrews doesn't really look that great. But this defense is full of huge names. Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Van Noy is older, but he's still good. They trade away Odafe Owe. Justin Madubuike gets injured for the year. Like, Roquan Smith is still on this team. How is this team not good? I think it goes to coaching. John Harbaugh has won Super Bowl, and so many people have said for so many years, how has this guy not been fired? It's because they have so much talent. I think they're scared of just letting him go and going with a new head coach that could really lead this team to the promised land. I think they're kind of in this aspect of being in fear where they don't want to get rid of the guy, because they think that he's going to give them the best chance, and I just don't think that's the case anymore. I really don't. I like John Harbaugh as a guy. I think he's an incredible man. But as a coach, I just don't think that he's doing enough for this organization to get them to where they need to be. So it's hard, man. It's hard for this Ravens team. If you're a Ravens fan, dude, I feel for you, man. I know you're going through it. It's really rough. This defense doesn't have an identity. The offense feels like they're nothing without Lamar Jackson. Derrick Henry is just again, had turnovers at the worst possible time. And outside of Zay, they don't have a whole lot of weapons. Again, DeAndre Hopkins is a freak, but he's not really a productive wide receiver this year in his career. Like, he's kind of similar to, like, when the Eagles signed Julio, what you're kind of looking at is like, dude, just throw it up to the guy, but, like, we're not going to throw it to him 10 times a game. You know what I mean? So, yeah, the Ravens really got to figure it out, but I think if this team loses, 3 of their next 5 games, 2 of their next 4 games, start trading, get some draft picks. Reload. Don't rebuild, but reload with this team, because Lamar Jackson is still a great. I want to be careful on how to say this. He's a great regular season quarterback, but this team has got to figure it out. They are way too talented to never have anything. I really do believe that if the Ravens team never wins an AFC title, never wins a Super Bowl, that people are going to look at this team 20 years from now and be like, dude, how were they never good? Kind of like the Chargers of the mid-2000s. Like, how did they never win? The Dolphins with Dan Marino, how did they never win? I think they'll be one of those teams, so I hope that's not the case. Moving on to the last team in the AFC North, the Steelers. The Steelers are 4-1, and this team is truly an enigma. I really don't feel like they've had a great win. Really the most impressive win that they've probably had. Again, they had that close game against the Jets week 1. They just beat Cleveland. Congrats. The one loss that they had was to the Seahawks, which are a good opponent. I mean, that was a good litmus test to see how good that this team really was, and they didn't compete very well. They did beat the Patriots, which I won't lie, spoiler, I am high on the Patriots, but the Patriots also had 5 turnovers that game. It's pretty hard to win a game if you have 5 turnovers, and they only won by 1 score. It was 21-14. So the Steelers, they really are an enigma. With Aaron Rodgers, he can still drop dimes, but is a lot more spotty, it seems like. And one of the big things is that Aaron Rodgers, with his older age, has really lost what made him so dynamic when he was at the Packers, and that was being able to roll out in the pocket, being able to juke, getting to run for extra yards. Very similar to what you see in a guy like Pat Mahomes, where, like, just kind of annoying to play against. Like, Aaron just is not that fast. Like, I had a thought where it's like sometimes when he's running, these defensive ends are able to catch him pretty quick, and it's like they're the retirement home aides chasing down a patient who got out into the parking lot or something. Also, Joe Flacco, the Steelers and Bengals play Thursday night, and Joe Flacco said he was happy to be playing in the icy hot bowl, which I thought was a good dig at both of them because of their age, but that was funny. So, yeah, the Steelers, the running game has not been super productive. The Steelers have done what the Steelers normally do. They win games when they can, the way that they can, and it's never super, super pretty. The running game hasn't been great. They only have 3 rushing touchdowns on the whole year, and receivers has been DK Metcalf. Calvin Austin's been okay, but the tight ends by committee. You got Jonnu Smith, Washington, who's like a 6'8" receiver or something crazy like that, or tight end. Just a huge unit of a guy. And then Pat Freiermuth hasn't been as involved as I thought he might be. So we'll see. Maybe the receivers try and trade for a wide receiver. There are rumors they might try and trade for another receiver who also plays in the state of Pennsylvania, which, I don't know, it's kind of weird, if you ask me. Don't know who they would be talking about. Maybe Jahan Dotson. Definitely not A.J. Brown. Please, Howie. Please don't do that. Please. Anyways. Yeah. So the Steelers, I'm curious to see how the offense can continue to progress, but this defense has finally gotten going. They are a sack machine, man. They have also forced 5 picks. It seems like they've started to figure things out after those couple of woes in weeks 1 and 2. So good for the Steelers. They definitely are in the lead to win the AFC North, which has fallen apart. I really kind of pegged the AFC North to be potentially the best division outside of Cleveland, but a lot of the division has just fallen apart, and it's been easy for the Steelers. I had the Steelers pegged at 3rd, I think. But hey. AFC East, we've got 2 more divisions, and we are wrapping up. AFC East, the New York Jets. They lost against Denver in the United Kingdom, and I am sad because I really did believe in this team after week 1. I thought that they had a real chance to put things together and get it figured out, and I don't really have faith in this team anymore. I don't have faith in Justin Fields to be the quarterback for this team, and I hate saying this stuff. I really do. I love Justin Fields as a guy. I think he's awesome. I wish that this team could have captured that lightning in a bottle from week 1 and been able to reproduce it with a better defense. And I really did believe that they could get the 7th seed in the AFC. But again, that's why we overreact in week 1. It's just fun to do. And then you see about week 6 of where teams really are and where they need to be. And yeah, the Jets are just not going to get there, unfortunately. They just haven't protected the ball well. They've had some bad fumbles, and they haven't been able to force turnovers. Garrett Wilson's stranded. He's really the only hope that the Jets have. Breece Hall really has taken a huge step back from being what looked like an elite running back. And yeah, it's just rough. I think that it's an issue from the top down. You have great weapons on the defense that have produced in years past, and they're just not. Gardner hasn't played very well. I've always liked Quinnen and Quincy Williams, both those brothers, and they just haven't been really on top of things. I'm trying to remember the one edge rusher. He's the really skinny guy that plays for them. I don't think it's John Franklin Myers. That's a guy for Denver. But anyways, the one edge rusher for the Jets, it seems like he had a great game against Tampa. He was the one that blocked the field goal against Tampa. But, this team just has no identity. And really my main note, I've been saying this for a couple of years, I think that this is a huge part of every organization that struggles. They need to sell this team. Woody Johnson needs to sell this team. He should not own the Jets because he's doing a disservice to them and their fans. So hang in there, Jets fans. Moving on to Miami, another team. They lost a tough one to the Chargers. But the big thing is, Tua has been really reckless with the ball. He's had a lot of turnovers. I think he has 7 picks on the year. They've had some bad fumbles. Tyreek Hill obviously goes down with that gruesome knee injury, and I don't think that Jalen Waddle's really a wide receiver 1. I think he's definitely more slotted for a wide receiver 2 role. Darren Waller's been a fun story, just kind of came back out of nowhere and started balling out, which has been cool. And Devon Achane is great. Again, this is still a team where there's so much offensive talent, and they're just not winning games. This defense is weak. They're struggling. I really thought that the defensive line for the Dolphins could be real problems for a lot of other teams, and they just have not really produced the way that you would think that they would. So they only have 1 pick on defense, and again, I do think that is in a lot of ways a correlation of how good the defensive line is. But it's rough in Miami. Very rough in Miami. Moving on to the Pats. They are 4-2 after beating the Saints. And Drake May will be a top 5 quarterback by the end of the season. This guy is a freaking baller, dude. Some of the throws he's making is just incredible. Looks like a guy. He can run. He's athletic. He just cannon of an arm. Tall. I really do think he's one of those guys you look at and you're like, that's the whole package. Like you think about a guy like Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, maybe Jordan Love. I don't know. And Justin Herbert, and you just look at those kind of guys and you're like, dude, that is the whole package and what you want in a prototypical quarterback. Drake May is that guy, man. Him and Josh Allen are going to be having some duels for the next 10 to 15 years, which I'm so excited to watch. There's going to be some great games, man. So Drake May looking great. The running game has not been great, though. I really thought that Travion Henderson would come along a bit better. Ramondre Stevenson has not looked nearly as good as he did in seasons prior. And then with the receiving game, you have Keyshawn Boutte. They keep calling him Booty. I don't know. I just feel uncomfortable saying it. I'm just going to be real. Maybe that's just me being immature. And Stephon Diggs, they've been a nice 1-2 punch. I do think that the Pats should really look for another receiver in the draft or in free agency in the next year or two to really solidify a good receiver core. Because Boutte, I think he was a 7th-round pick. He looked like he was going to be a first-round pick after his freshman year in college. Kind of fell off. Fell in the draft, and now he's producing, showing why he was talented and was mocked to go in the first round at points in his career. But yeah, so the Pats are looking good offensively, and I think the defense has been solid, and they could really win the division. I think this is a well-coached team by Mike Vrabel, and Pats are fun. I really do. I agree with it, which is so funny because for so many years, people just hated the Patriots because of the dominance they had with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. But there's almost like an element where even I feel weird saying this, like it's kind of fun to see the Pats be good again because we're so used to them being bad over the last 5 years. So good for the Pats. Moving on to the Bills. The Bills are 4-2, and I feel like they are a mirror of the Eagles. They had great years last year, looking to win the Super Bowl this year, had really high odds to win the Super Bowl, and have not really looked like themselves, haven't had really that great of wins outside of the Week 1 comeback against the Ravens, and now we're lost 2 games in a row the last 2 weeks. Same story for the Eagles. Yeah, and as far as Josh Allen, he's thrown some bad picks. He really has. Like, I think that we're so quick to maybe put aside players' mistakes the way we did with Pat Mahomes even last year. Like, he really didn't have a great season, and people are like, well, it's still Patrick Mahomes, so it's fine. Jalen's under so much scrutiny that it's like, he makes any mistake, it's like, oh, Jalen sucks. He doesn't, in my opinion. But, Josh has thrown some really bad picks, but I think a lot of people are willing to excuse it because he's Josh Allen. But yeah, James Cook is a great running back. They've been solid in the run game. And again, Josh Allen is always going to produce, but yeah, some of the picks have been bad. And the receivers have been probably the biggest problem for them. Keon Coleman hasn't really been very productive. Like, I think for successful NFL teams, what you're kind of looking for, in my mind, that's why I like the Chargers wide receiver room so much, is you have a reliable guy who you can count on getting you 7-8 yards every time you throw to him. He can reliably get open. A guy like Keenan Allen in his past, where you just know you can throw the ball his way. DeAndre Hopkins was definitely that way. I would argue A.J. Brown is that way. And then you have the big play guys. Like, the Chargers, again, they have Quentin Johnston. Guys that are hitting huge shots down the field. Tyreek Hill is, I think, probably the epitome of that. Jameson Williams is a guy like that. I would say even Jalen Waddle could be considered one of those guys where you're looking more for those guys like 10 to 15 yards down the field rather than 5 to 10 yards down the field. And then you have a guy who's just a crisp route runner who can just get open and when you really need him to. So, yeah, I don't feel like the Bills have a whole lot of any of that. Keon Coleman is a big physical receiver and just hasn't really been getting the ball much. Khalil Shakir is a poor man's Jameson Williams. Like, he does have some big plays, but he's really not as versatile or effective as a guy like J-Mo is, if you ask me. And this defense needs Ed Oliver if they want to win the division. He's got to be healthy if they want a chance to win the division. I think that the Bills, like, it's the same thing with the Eagles where it's like, you can press the panic button, feel like the season's shot. Oh my gosh, like, we suck. We're going to do terrible. Good coaching and some discipline can sort these things out. I mean, it really doesn't have to go that way. So the Bills still have incredible talent. I think they just need some more time to kind of work out the kinks. Same thing with the Eagles. I'm going to stand by that. I really am. The AFC South. The Titans fall to 1-5, losing to Las Vegas. Brian Callahan has been fired, and now Cam Ford will look forward to his future head coach coming into the building, whoever that may be. I really do feel like with Cam, you need to see a little more talent around him before we judge his ability to play. I'm curious if the Titans are going to trade Jeffrey Simmons. I do think that this is a team where it's like, okay, you have the quarterback, but you still need to rebuild. Who knows? Maybe this team can be kind of similar to how the Pats were, where they draft Drake May and the team looks terrible. They get a good free agent wide receiver in Stephon Diggs, get some more defensive pieces, have a good draft, and then you're like, hey, well, we might be able to actually really do something here. So. I think, in my opinion, I think that the Titans need to look to move pieces, try and develop young talent, and stockpile some draft picks to be able to move in the right direction. So the Titans are struggling. There's really not a whole lot to say about this team. The running game, they have not been getting going. Tony Pollard, he had some big years in Dallas. Signs with the Titans last year, people think, oh, man, he's going to snap, and fell flat, and he still doesn't look quite the same. So he may have just been a product of the system in Dallas there. Wide receivers, Calvin Ridley has not been good. And I am, because I'm talking about so many Alabama wide receivers like they're not good anymore, and it breaks my heart, dude. But Calvin Ridley, he just hasn't been who he could be, unfortunately. So it's just rough. It's a rough time for the Titans, kind of similar to the Browns. I think there's just a growing list of needs, and check back in 2 years, maybe they'll be turning things around. The Texans are 2-3 coming off of their bye week. And they look like they really are turning it around. They had a really dominant win against the Ravens. I think that win was 41-10, and their offense looked good. I think the big thing with CJ was early on in the year, he didn't trust the offensive line. And it looks like he's starting to build some trust with his offensive line. He looks confident in the pocket. He looks comfortable, and he's playing like the player that we're used to seeing CJ Stroud being. So super excited for them. In the running game, they haven't really been able to get going without Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's been injured, hasn't been healthy, so that's been a pretty big hit for the rushing game. As far as receiver, Tank Dell had that gruesome injury last year. Nico Collins has started to put things together, but I would like to see maybe near the trade deadline, maybe the Texans can grab a receiver and start being more productive. With the Colts up next. Oh my God. Oh, the Jags. I'm sorry, the Jags. I'm saving the Colts for last. With the Jags, they have been a bit of a roller coaster, to say the least, sitting at 4-2. Have a huge wild win over the Chiefs, and then have had some real low lights, like just some real struggles. It's been very interesting. As far as Trevor Lawrence, he hasn't protected the ball super well. I don't think I put the stats in here in my notes, but he hasn't protected the ball super well. You know, he's got a positive to negative touchdown to interception ratio, which is always good. Been pretty productive in terms of yardage, but yeah, just I think that you're looking for him to protect the ball a little bit better, again, to be in that elite conversation. I think Trevor right now, his career and as it stands today, he's just kind of a middle-of-the-road quarterback in the NFL, you know, and I hate saying that, but I do feel like that's kind of the case for him. So, yeah, with that being said, though, running game, Travis Etienne has been awesome. He's got almost 500 yards already and 2 touchdowns. Brian Thomas had a terrible start to the season. He's now coming on, but this team really hasn't gotten Travis Hunter involved super well offensively. So I'm curious to see how they can look with a dynamic player like Travis Hunter getting involved. So, yeah. As far as the defense, Josh Hines-Allen, I think, has been kind of the biggest storyline for them. He only has half a sack. Half a sack is very surprising for a franchise defensive end. So who knows what's going on there, but hopefully he can figure it out and start producing, because this guy, I mean, we've seen it time and time again. He's an incredible edge rusher, so hopefully he can figure it out. And last but not least, maybe the best for last, the Indianapolis Colts. This team has been so fun to watch. They have, in a lot of ways, I keep saying, the Eagles need to look at what the Colts have been doing, obviously with Shane Steichen, former offensive coordinator, and be like, let's just copy and paste exactly what they're doing, because we have similar pieces. Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley are very similar running backs. They have A.J. Brown. We have A.J. Brown, and they have Michael Pittman, which I think you can kind of mimic. I look at a guy like Tyler Warren. We don't have a Tyler Warren, but like the Colts, they're explosive, man. They are whipping the ball downfield. Jonathan Taylor's getting huge rushes. Daniel Jones has looked very composed. I want to be playing like the Colts, honestly, man. The only loss they've had, again, they're 5-1. The only loss they had was to the Rams in a one-score game, which was super close. And again, if Adonai Mitchell doesn't fumble the ball because he's celebrating on the 1-yard line, the Colts really probably would have won that game. So this team has been awesome. They play confident. And Daniel Jones is first in the league in quarterback rating. Danny Dimes, man. Indiana Jones. He is killing it, dude. It's awesome. A note on Jonathan Taylor. He is on pace for 1,800 rushing yards and 20 rushing touchdowns. He also has 174 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. He's just been awesome. Jonathan Taylor is back, and he is a beast, dude. Tyler Warren was such a steal for the Colts. The Bears could have drafted him. Everyone was mocking a tight end to the Colts and the Bears, either inversing those of Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren. The Bears take Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren, and I think Bears fans probably are a little ignorant to the mistake that was, because Tyler Warren is awesome. He is leading the team in receiving with 370 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pittman is old, reliable, and Alec Pierce is averaging 20 yards per catch. They are the most explosive offense in the NFL, and their defense has put up 16 sacks and 7 picks. It's not just the offense, it's the defense too. Like, this team is actually legit with a ragtag band of dudes from Indianapolis, man. I freaking love it. That's what's great about the NFL, is the storyline, dude. And I don't think anyone's looking at the Colts like, oh, I hate the Colts. If you're looking at the Colts and you hate the Colts, whatever, dude. This team is awesome, man. What a fun team this is. They remind me a lot of the young Packers team that steamrolled Dallas in the wild card 2 years ago, man. They are just young and fiery, lot to prove, and they're after, man. Super happy for Shane Steichen that his career is shaping out when people thought he was going to get fired. Happy for Daniel Jones. Love it for Jonathan Taylor, and it's just love it for the whole state of Indiana, man. So, yeah, it's just been awesome. So, with that being said, that is the AFC. That is the AFC check-in for this week. Again, hopefully I'll have the NFC checking out tomorrow. We'll see. Don't hold me to that. And then we will also have a video talking about the Eagles and how to write some things. So, yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and close in a word of prayer. And, yeah. Lord, we just thank you for this day, God. I thank you for the way that you're moving in sports, Lord. I thank you even for just the stories like Travis Hunter and Hollywood Brown and Terrion Arnold all getting baptized, Lord. It's just so incredible to see that they're putting their faith on display, Lord. God, I pray a special protection over the Christian players that are in the league, God, that you would just protect their careers, let them live long and prosperous, especially in the way that they work, Lord, so that way they can keep bringing glory to your kingdom, witness for your sake, Lord, for the gospel, Lord. I just thank you for your goodness to us. I thank you for sports. I thank you for the beautiful fall weather, and just all the things that are so exciting in life, God. And we just rejoice in this time in Jesus' name. Amen. On another note, my daughter is due to be born in 10 days. So, yeah, just be praying for my wife, be praying for a safe delivery. Just super excited to meet that little girl. So that being said, love you guys. Thanks for checking in, and have a great rest of your day.